This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Good afternoon and welcome to a very special Labor Day edition of the Noon Report. I'm your host, Bob Price, and we're setting aside our regular programming today to bring you some of our summertime Mission Pulse feature reports. They aired Mondays the past few months here on Family Life. These are features that spotlight ministries making a difference where you live, across the country, and around the world. Our first feature is Child Evangelism Fellowship. CEF has been sharing the gospel with boys and girls all over the world since 1937. Vice President Fred Pry spoke with us back in June when we first launched Mission Pulse. Here's some of that conversation. Summertime is prime time to reach young people with the gospel. I don't know what it is, the weather or what, but if you would, just to begin, talk about the impact that Christian camps have, whether it be 5-day clubs or good news clubs or backyard Bible clubs. That's how I met Jesus, was through a backyard Bible club. Vacation Bible schools, another great one. Just talk about this time of year and how crucial it is at reaching young people with the gospel.
Absolutely. You know, it is an exciting time. I'm so thrilled to hear that you came to Christ through a backyard Bible club.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a wonderful place for children, especially during that school break. And a lot of times they're at home, they don't know what to do. And going to a 5-day club or a vacation Bible school or a camp, it's a wonderful thing. In fact, I have fond memories of going to a Christian camp. And it was a great place to grow in my faith, even though we have a society that communicates through social media in all kinds of ways. And yet it's reported that kids feel so lonely. Yeah. And so having a time where they can actually join and gather with one another, be encouraged, have fun together, and hear biblical truths that will change their life forever has such an impact on their lives.
Yeah, you mentioned social media. I just find that so ironic that this technology that was supposed to improve our communication and bring us together has had the opposite effect. It's created these islands and loneliness out there, and kids think that's the real world. That's not the real world. Go to a Christian camp. That's the real world. But I wanted to ask you about social media because it's so prevalent in young people's life. Is that making it harder, Fred, to reach young minds for Christ? How are we able to make the Christian faith relevant when there's so much out there competing when it comes to digital distractions?
Oh, that is something that I know it's on parents' hearts and minds. Too much screen time is very detrimental. And what CEF has done is actually we've said, hey, there's some good alternatives. I believe God gives us all kinds of things in life that allow us to use those things for good, but we have to recognize that Satan can use those things for evil as well. Yeah. So we have to look at technology and say, okay, how does God want us to use this to effectively communicate and reach this next generation for Christ? And social media is one of those things. We have a Unite channel on YouTube for kids. There's some videos there. We have a kids app, and all these things are using technology to share the gospel, to communicate with those boys and girls that are on screens, to make a difference for good and not let evil reign.
Yeah. When I was growing up, actual Bible teachers would come into the public schools and talk about Jesus in the public school setting. Do they still do that in school?
Yes, it has changed a little bit over time. Basically, we have two forms of ministry in our schools: after-school good news clubs, but also we do release times in CEF. We continue to do them. Generally, the rule is they must be taken off campus or at least off school school grounds. So sometimes they're on buses. They go to a local church or a community center, and we do a release time, which is an hour each week as well. And so that's happening around this country. CEF is worldwide, and there are education departments of countries that are saying, we want religious education in our schools, and we're inviting CEF to come in, use their curriculum, and actually come into the school and teach the boys and girls about God and His Word.
Yeah, Bible to School, which is doing such great work. And the lady who runs that was telling me how some of these superintendents and principals are saying, boy, since you've come into our school, we have noticed such a difference in the kids' behavior and academic performance since you've been doing these outreach programs in the school. So even if you're not taking it from a Christian perspective, a lot of even the secular school administrators are saying, please keep doing what you're doing because the kids' behavior and academic performance is changed because of this.
That's absolutely true. We've had principals say to us, it has made such a difference in their school setting and in the lives of the children as a whole, but in specific children. They've come to us and said, hey, this child was in my office all the time. And now, because they've attended Good News Club, which was a last resort, they said, hey, can we get permission from the parent to send this child to Good News Club? And it made a difference. Yeah. And they testify to the difference. Yeah. So it's just wonderful.
Well, you know what else is wonderful? It just seems to be a Jesus resurgence among Gen Zers and millennials in particular. There was a recent Barna study out, Fred, I'm sure you saw it, but for young men especially, this is true. People seem to be coming to Christ in droves on college campuses, the revivals that are breaking out. I wonder if there's discipleship to follow this up. Does CEF do much in terms of getting these new believers plugged into the local church after these conversion experiences?
Oh, absolutely. CEF is not the church. We're part of the church, absolutely, but we are not the church. And that's why our purpose statement is to evangelize, disciple, and the third one is establish boys and girls in a local Bible-believing church for Christian living.
Yeah, you know, we talked about this big summertime, and there's so many young people that come to Christ through the camping experience. I met my wife through summer camps. I got to ask you this, because it just seems to me, we talked about digital influences of social media. Is camping still a big thing? Is it still going strong, or have we seen that kind of drop off in recent years?
You know, once someone experiences camp, especially if parents experienced it and had a great experience with it, they really do want their own children to attend. And we actually see it still going strong in America especially, but even around the world. Mm-hmm. And there's something different that happens as a camp. I mentioned it earlier, but it's just a different mentality. Kids are experiencing some new things, especially when we get the opportunity to take kids out of the inner city and take them into the rural areas, and they get to experience maybe hiking or fishing or canoeing or rock climbing or whatever it is for the very first time. They say, this is an amazing thing to experience God's creation. Of course, God's creation is a perfect way to share who God is through His creation. And so camping is a wonderful time.
I can't think of a time I was closer to Jesus than through a VBS program or a backyard Bible club or some kind of a camp experience. I can still see that young college student who led me to Christ in the living room of my home growing up as a result of those backyard Bible clubs. And I know there are millions and millions of people, Fred, who have similar testimonies. So thank you so much for the work you do at CEF and making faith real and personal to so many young people. God bless you, sir. Thanks again. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you.
That is Fred Pry. He's the Vice President of Child Evangelism Fellowship. And if you're just joining us this Labor Day, this is a special edition of the Noon Report. I'm your host, Bob Price. We're so glad you've made us a part of your afternoon plans, and we're re-airing some of our more popular summertime Mission Pulse features today. Mondays all summer long. We spotlighted ministries that are making a difference where you live all across this country and all around this world, frankly. And our next feature takes us to a Christian camp in Tioga County, Pennsylvania. Our guest is T.J. Arndt with Three Springs Ministries in the Northern Tier. He spoke with us back in July about what makes this camp so special. Let's listen in.
Three Springs has been in ministry since 1984, so about 41 years here in July. Yeah, and we are located in Nauvoo, or Morris Township, and we offer all kinds of experiences. We have horse camps, and then we also have the Link Hill Inn. It's an adult retreat center, and then we have the farm, which is often more youth and family retreats. We have a bus mission and travel ministry, and we have One Life. It's a 9-month Christian gap year program that we host here at Three Springs. And then we also now have the new Rush Recreation Center. It's a full gymnasium with an indoor rock wall that we have been using for all sorts of activities, for community events, sporting events, sports camps to come, and lots of exciting new things that this space is offering for all of our activities that we have here.
That's amazing. So is there an off season at Three Springs? It sounds like you may be going year round here. Is that true?
Yes. There's not really an off season. We often say it's just a different kind of busy during different parts of the year.
Sure. I'd like to know a little bit more about your adult retreat center. How does that work?
Yeah. So the Link Hill Inn is a space that we provide for different churches or other organizations that are looking for maybe a more higher end quality experience when it comes to meals. It's a Victorian mansion with beautiful accommodations, and so all of our things that we offer here at Three Springs are all with the intention of creating a space for people to meet with Jesus and each other. And we often host marriage retreats at the Link Hill Inn, or small groups from churches, or different things like that.
Wow. Now, this gap year project, I never knew what a gap year was until my daughter said, I'm taking a gap year off from her senior year of high school to college. And that was new to me. I'd never even heard the expression, but is that kind of what this One Life gap year project is geared towards, that space between high school and college?
Correct. We believe that the years of 18 to 20 are critical years of students' lives, just setting the trajectory for where God might be leading them. The One Life discipleship program is all about developing character, calling, and relational wisdom, growing in what it means to be self-aware, others-aware, and God-aware. Where do we find ourselves in this big story that God's been writing? And so we have about 32 students here on the property for 9 months of the year. They do a lot of travel, experiential learning. There is classes, there's professors, business leaders in their fields, and just professionals in fields that come and talk. And so these students, they leave with college credit, around 30 credits that they receive on the year.
We talked to a lot of camp directors over the summer. I don't remember one that's got this much going on. I mean, when you think of family camps and horse camps and church retreats, the adult retreat center, the gap year program that you got going on there, is that something that you do by design, or is that something where you've had to kind of diversify, for lack of a better term, when it comes to the camping experience? Because let's face it, camping has evolved over the years. When I was growing up, it was, pitch a tent and build a fire, and that's camping. Now, you've got all these amenities that go along with it. Talk, if you would, a little bit, TJ, about why having all these different facets of ministry at Three Springs.
So we often say here at Three Springs that we capitalize on small. It's a lot of different things happening, small groups that are intentional for a quality experience, and we find small communities where really special things happen. Why do we do horses, right? Or why do we do mission and travel? Why did we build a gym that has a 40-foot rock wall and basketball and all the different activities? Why do we do all these things? We want to meet people where they're at, providing providing a space where they can feel comfortable and meet them there, and that's where God meets them, where moments at camp turn into movements in their life.
Amen.
And so we don't want just mountaintop experiences at camp. We want great experiences, but we don't want this to be the summit, right? So we want to create experiences that launch them to continue this journey in following Christ.
Yeah. Well, there's these things called smartphones that distract kids these days, and now so much of their lives are wrapped up in those digital devices. Before all of this, before we had smartphones, camping was a big thing in the summer for families. They would pack up the van or the station wagon. I don't know if they have station wagons anymore. And they'd head off to camp for a week or whatever in the mountains or at the lake. I'm wondering, TJ, is camping as big a deal today in 2025 as it was in years past?
We've definitely seen it change. And, we recognize that God never changes, right? But change is actually one of Three Springs' core values. We want to change and adapt our methods of reaching people, our methods of ministry, recognizing that our God never changes within that, and the truths of His Word never change. But we want to constantly be thinking, what can we do to go toward? We want to adapt, and so if there's something that an organization, a church, youth group is interested in doing, we want to be all about that conversation. How can we make that happen, and create an experience that is meeting people where they're at? And so is it different? Yes. I think it is different. There's been waves of kids being more interested in adventure and high activity type of experiences. But I think there's some of that coming back, extreme sport type stuff. And so there's definitely shifts and changes, and we're here to shift with it, but not shifting our values.
Amen. That's a wonderful approach to it. I coach sports, and I tell the kids, if I don't accomplish anything else this summer, at least I got you off those phones for a couple hours a day.
Yeah. and I will say, too, for our 9-month discipleship program, technology is something that they talk about quite a bit. They don't have their phones except for Sunday afternoons.
Yeah. And I imagine at the end of that week, you probably don't have a lot of kids saying, boy, that was a mistake, not having my phone.
Right. They don't miss it. They don't miss it. When you stop looking down and you start looking up.
Stop looking down, start looking up. Love that. That's TJ Arndt with Three Springs Ministries in Tioga County, Pennsylvania. This is a special edition of the Noon Report. I'm your host, Bob Price. We're taking a look back at some of our more popular Mission Pulse feature reports the past several months. Another camp that's changing lives is the Delta Lake Christian Conference Center. That's located in Rome, New York, about an hour north of Syracuse. Steve Clark is the executive director, and I spoke with him over the 4th of July holiday about what makes his camp so unique. Let's listen in. 101 years of ministry. Steve, 1924, I believe, is the year when the first tent meetings happened there in Rome, New York. Got to ask you, not a lot of ministries have that kind of staying power. To what do you attribute Delta Lake's longevity?
A lot of family connections, people who have history that maintain and nurture that history, people who have come, who've had life-changing experiences, and that becomes the pattern of ongoing in their family tradition, if you will. But it's also a case of new generations coming in to experience what it means to encounter Christ in a off-the-way place. By that I mean out of the normal context of home life, coming to a spot that is away from the hustle and bustle of life, giving you an opportunity to just develop a fresh sense of the presence of God in an outdoor context where people can be friendly and gracious and hospitable to one another.
Yeah. When I was working as a camp counselor at Delta, we used to sleep in the Army surplus tent that existed. Now people have these $100,000 RVs. So things have changed a lot when it comes to camping. But I got to ask you, is Christian camping as big a deal today as it was 25, 50 years ago? Talk about how you have had to get creative as far as a camp director in keeping camping alive and well in our culture today.
For us, family camp is a 1-week experience out of the summer. We have youth camps that go for about 6 weeks and guest groups that take up much of the year's calendar. We take a break only for a few weeks at holiday times, but otherwise we are on a full tilt year-round schedule of ministry. So for us, camping is a 12-month-a-year opportunity. Now, you asked the question about RVs. Yes, we see a prevalence of them today. The bigger ones more than the small pop-ups or tent campers that were more prevalent, let's say, 25 to 50 years ago. So now we're into fifth wheels and that kind of thing. So it's more the size and the amenities of what camping brings is what we're experiencing today.
Yeah.
Does that mean there's less? No. It's just a different style. People want accommodations that are a little more upscale. The days of rustic Army surplus tents are pretty much gone.
Okay.
You're showing your age when you mention that, Bob.
To me, that's camping, though. That's real
I understand.
camping.
But today, and that may be why the names begin to change, people are looking for more of a ministry experience that broadens or deepens them on a spiritual level and connects them with others and friends and people that they will get to know. So when we talk about a 12-month-a-year experience, that means we've got to have accommodations that can weather the winter and provide air conditioning in the summer.
Yeah.
Very different from the summer tenting experience. Can't do much in tents in the wintertime when you have feet and feet of snow.
And if you've ever been to Rome, New York, you know they can get snow occasionally up there. But I'll tell you this. You mentioned the youth camps, and I was talking to the president of Child Evangelism Fellowship recently about reaching young people with the gospel. And the summer is just a unique time, a prime time. I met Jesus through a backyard Bible club in the summer, and I know that's a big part of a lot of people's experiences is Christian summer camping. But we live in a social media generation now, Steve. How are you able to continue to reach young people for Christ when there's all these digital distractions around them?
I think the best answer is you don't try to overwhelm it or negate it. You try to work around it. You have to be much more realistic about who your audience is, and that means you have to find ways to create an experience that is unique, that is not just a touch back to 100 years ago, but is realistic to where life is today. Now, for our youth camps, we actually require the kids to give up their cell phones. That may be a challenge to some, but we found that it's really beneficial for them to say, this is a place to get away from the pace of the world and to walk away from the normal things of home in order to create an abnormal place where God can talk to my heart.
Yeah. I wonder, Steve, how many of those kids at the end of that week of not having their cell phone say, boy, that was a bad idea. I bet you not many, do they?
Not many. And you know something? Public schools are finding the same thing has to be true. We live in an AI world.
Yeah.
That's the reality out there, but that doesn't mean that has to be what we're doing in here.
Yeah. Steve Clark is our guest today, director of Delta Lake Bible Conference Center in Rome, New York. And Steve, your son, my college roommate, convinced me to come up to Rome, New York, and God introduced me to my wife there, and it's where I rededicated my life to Christ, right at the altar in the youth tab. So Delta Lake is a very special place in my heart. But for those listeners who are hearing this for the first time and don't know anything about Delta Lake, what do you want them to know about this unique Christian camping experience that has existed for over a century there in Rome, New York?
We were created as a means of expanding camp meeting ministry in a movement that was missions-oriented, deeper spiritual life-oriented 100 years ago. We may have changed the way we do programs. We may have expanded the kinds of programs, but we haven't changed our message or adjusted our emphasis. Our mission remains the same, and that is welcoming guests to encounter Jesus. I think that it's having touchstones that are clear to your core, that are important if you're going to carry it forward. It's not trying to adjust the central message. It's trying to flex in a way that helps people live in today's society while they are encountering the one who is timeless and changeless.
That is Steve Clark, camp director of the Delta Lake Christian Conference Center, which is celebrating 100 years of ministry in Rome, New York. If you're just tuning in, this is a special Labor Day edition of the Noon Report. I'm your host, Bob Price, and we're spotlighting some of our favorite Mission Pulse feature reports, which aired Mondays all summer long on Family Life. Our final Mission Pulse feature takes us to Syracuse, not far from Rome, where we talked with Steve. We're bragging next on the good work going on at New Hope Family Services, which helps to promote life and encourage adoption in Central New York. It's been doing this for 60 years. New Hope's executive director, Jill Putman. Well, Jill, I'm sure you get asked this question a million times, so I'll ask it and get it out of the way. What is New Hope Family Services anyway? Are you a Christian adoption agency? Are you a crisis pregnancy center? How do you describe who you are to people who don't know?
Well, yes, actually, we are both. New Hope Family Services is a pregnancy resource center and a New York State authorized adoption agency in New York State.
Okay. How long have you been providing adoption services in New York?
We've been providing adoption services in Central New York since 1965. So we are just celebrating our 60th anniversary of adoption services here in Central New York.
Wow. So, Jill, if you would just explain a little bit, how great is the need for Christian adoptions?
There is a need, and there's no other Christian adoption agency in New York State that provides the services that we provide. There's a lot of brokenness in our community, and it's beneficial for us to be able to work with couples and to be able to match them with a child, but to also be able to provide sharing the gospel with them and praying for them. And like I said, there's no other agency like this in our state.
How many adoptions do you do a year on average?
I'm going to say somewhere between 7 to 10, typically. Okay. We are a smaller agency, so we might not have the numbers of a very large secular agency, but the placements that we have been absolutely beautiful, and our relationships with the adoptive couples as well as the birth parents have been just a beautiful thing.
Maybe there's someone today listening to this program who, for whatever reason, cannot have children of their own and really feels the call to adopt. If you could walk us through the process of an adoption and all the questions that people have to ask themselves.
Sure. Yeah, well, coming into adoption, I mean, the way that we do it at New Hope, anyone who is interested in adoption, we hold an orientation, and the orientation walks through our whole entire adoption program, the process. A lot of times people who are looking to adopt have gone through infertility and or miscarriages. Adoption is a lot of education and learning about the triad, the healthy triad between the adoptive parent, the child, and the birth parents. And then after the orientation, we have an application process, and we have adoptive caseworkers that will go through a series of interviewing and home study rounds. And once those are all approved, then we can create a profile of their life and their family to be able to present to any birth parents that are considering placing their babies for adoption.
So how long is the process start to finish? How long does it typically take?
I would say about 4 months from the first interview until they're approved. It's about a 4-month process.
Jill, you said up front that you're also a pregnancy resource center as well as being a Christian adoption agency. How do the two of those work together, or are they totally separate entities at New Hope?
Well, no. I mean, we all operate under the same office. We operate hand in hand. The Pregnancy Resource Center, we serve clients in the community. We offer free pregnancy tests, ultrasounds. Clients can come in once a month for services. All of our services are provided at no cost to the client. We're 100% donation driven financially and materially. Clients can come in and get free diapers, wipes, baby clothing, baby supplies, all of that. They can meet with a volunteer client advocate for peer counseling. We have a whole fatherhood program that works with men. We have newborn care classes. We have parenting classes. We have post-abortive healing program if someone has had an abortion in the past. Anyone who's had miscarriage or infant loss, we have counseling for that as well. So we really want to walk hand in hand with anyone, whatever their situation is. If they're experiencing a crisis pregnancy, we want to let them come in, talk with them, let them see the baby, the heartbeat, and ultimately we would love for them to choose life. We can't make the choice for them, but we want to walk hand in hand with them. If they do choose abortion, we want to let them know that we're there for them in that case too, and that we want to help them find healing for that.
Do most of the women facing crisis pregnancy situations, abortion vulnerable women who come to you for help, do most of them, after seeking your help, choose to carry on with their pregnancy?
Well, there is a high percentage, yes, that do, but again, some don't, and we can't make that choice for them.
I imagine it can't be easy in a state like New York to do what you do. What have been some of the biggest hurdles you've had to overcome in your many years of ministry there in Syracuse?
Well, I'm a relatively new executive director for New Hope, but just overcoming hurdles of, just that we are a Christian agency and the attacks on that. And then, of course, more recently is the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Just the negative publicity that's out there in what we do are just a lot of misconceptions, and our mission is to be Christ's hands extended to offer hope and healing to all women facing unexpected pregnancies and adoption needs in central New York. So, that's our mission, and that's what we're there to do. And we want to love on everyone that walks through our doors and help them make the best choice available for them.
All right. And Jill, if folks want to know more about New Hope Family Services, where can they find you?
Well, our physical location is on James Street in Syracuse, New York, or they could look us up online at newhopefamilyservices.com.
That is Jill Putman, Executive Director of New Hope Family Services. This year marks 60 years of ministry for that Christian adoption agency and pregnancy resource center in Syracuse, New York. And that's all the time we have for this special Labor Day edition of the Noon Report. We hope you've enjoyed revisiting some of our more popular Mission Pulse features from over the summer. All summer long, we spotlighted ministries making a difference where you live, across the country, and around the world. Have a wonderful Labor Day afternoon. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.